Salud, my friends. Let me get this mic hooked up just right. Yeah, okay. And welcome to Season 3 of Game of Thrones, Episode 1 review. Valar. That word up there, because I can't pronounce the motherfucker right now, and I'm not going to try. Just know I got fucking VD in the title, and just go with it. So, Game of Thrones is back, and we are just coming off of the season finale of Walking Dead as well, which was kind of bittersweet to me. I'll hopefully touch upon that before this night is out. But yeah, we got a little bit to talk about with the opening of Game of Thrones. So without further ado, let's get this started. Oh, by the way too, I didn't really touch on Season 2 that much with my own channel, so if you wanted to see what I thought about the past season, go to Deadpoolzilla's channel, check out a video that I did with him, Melina Pendulum, and Pop Culture Diva 42 on what I thought of that season. And with that said and done, let's get on to this review. Well, I have to say that I'm kind of underwhelmed by this episode. Not entirely, but at least from an action standpoint, I am a little bit disappointed. HBO usually is known for some of the attention-getting season openers that they usually have, and this one doesn't really have that much going on as far as action goes, which I'm a little bit disappointed by. Now, instead, what this show does have going for it is that this is a nice foundation layer for this season, with some unexpected bonuses. Gonna jump over some points of view, no real order to it. We'll let you know. There's a lot of spoilers in this. We're down a couple of characters, which is disappointing, but hey, we still have 9 episodes to go this season. No Arya this episode. No Jaime, and no Brienne. Instead, what we get is a lot of character stuff and just some surprising developments, at least for some characters. Some I've come to like, and some I've come to really detest. Let's start out with what's happening in the North. So, after we get through the Season 2 recap and the standard, really good, musically opened pop-up book introduction, we start out in the North. We do a little prologue with Sam running away from one of the White Walkers, and he gets his fat ass saved by his commander and told him to mind his station. Meanwhile, over the wall, we have Jon Snow, who is in the custody of Ygritte and Rattleshirt, who, by the way, has a very awesome looking skeleton costume for the Lord of Bones. If I ever get a chance to cosplay and go to a Comic-Con one year, I am so finding some shit and making that into a costume because it just looks badass. We get to meet Mance Rayder, the King Beyond the Wall, but before that, Jon actually gets to lay eyes on an actual fucking giant. And that's not the only creature that we get in this. We also get our dragons, and we get our strange little creature which tries to pull a coup de grace upon the Khaleesi, which I'll come to shortly. Still a little disappointed that our dire wolves are not looking a little more monstrous. Earlier this afternoon, I came off of finally seeing The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, and unfortunately, I kind of wish that the dire wolves looked more like the wargs from that movie, but hey, you can't get everything you want. Anyways, Jon Snow finally gets to meet Mance Rayder. He accidentally mistakes Tormund Giantsbane, and we're unfortunately spared all of the great nicknames that he has, particularly the Husband of Bears, which is kind of funny. Maybe we'll find that out later. Ain't no telling. But anyway, we get to meet Mance Rayder, who is played by Ciarán Hinds of HBO Rome fame, as well as being the devil in Ghost Rider 2. Ciarán Hinds is in here, minus a fucked up face, plus a very bad wig job. He's brought in here, and he's kind of a gullible fellow. Now, this is one of the iterations where I kind of have to compare the book to the show for a minute. They shorten up the dialogue, and in fact, this is a very short scene which plays out. Basically, the reason why Jon tells Mance that he wants to join his little party of wildlings has to do with the fact that I met one of the White Walkers. or actually, I met some of my former companions who are now fucking zombies. And Mance says, okay, give the man a cloak. Whereas in the book, Jon actually had encountered Mance in a very short meeting way back in Game of Thrones at Winterfell, and said, hey Mance, do you remember where I was sitting as compared to the rest of the family in the main hall of Winterfell? Where was the bastard sitting? Away from the family. And Mance said, okay, give the boy a cloak. I kind of liked the explanation as Mance giving Jon a cloak better in this episode than I did in the book. Actually, I'm kind of iffy on it. The bastard metaphor works a little bit better, but the White Walker is just kind of a deuce. I don't know, something about it kind of bothered me, but, you know, it's just done and out of the way with, and he gets a cloak and he's with the Wildlings for now. Well, after all that's said and done, he gets a pat on the back for killing the half-hand. We jump ship and we go over to King's Landing. Now we have a lot going on in King's Landing. Tyrion wakes up. He's minus a fucked up face. Actually, he was missing a lot of his nose in the books, but I guess that Peter Dinklage is not entirely willing to go through a bad nose job just to please us fans of the books, which is okay. I guess I can get around that little guy. But his sister comes in there. There's some shit talk back and forth in between them. He's kind of going through some daddy issues. His father did not even bother coming in there once to see him. And he goes to see his father while he's working, and we come to find out why. That little bit in Season 2, you know, just the moments in between him and Arya that you probably could have liked, where you liked the guy. Yeah, toss that right out the fucking window, because the way that he treats his actual son, or at least the fact that he can't prove that Tyrion is not his son, excuse me, he just tells his son straight out, I hate you. You know, your birth was the reason why your mother died. Not the fact that she slipped off into some horrible postpartum depression, but actually for the fact that she died giving birth to the little guy. And Tywin has always resented him for that. His very existence is a reminder of the pain of losing his wife. Kind of like Hercules, the legendary journeys. Hercules is kind of a reminder of Zeus's infidelity to Hera. Hence why they have such an animosity towards each other. Excuse me. But you really feel for the guy. You know, riveting TV. But stuff like that, I feel bad for Tyrion. Because, you know, he seems to be the only Lannister who has some semblance of a heart in him. And his father is just a cold-blooded bastard. At least towards him. Moving on with that, we have Cersei, who is not actually pleased at her soon-to-be daughter-in-laws mingling with the common people. Marjorie Tyrell is Mother Teresa. She is Princess Diana. She is Kate Middleton. Going out there doing a nice PR job for the people. I actually kind of like the fact that she's a little bold, you know. Excuse me, one of her servant girls says, you're messing up this new dress you got by walking through mud and shit in the streets. And she's like, yeah, I got plenty of dresses. Meanwhile, Joffrey's sitting in his little cage, bunched up, not really wanting to go anywhere. And there's kind of a nice moment in between Marjorie and some of the children of the fallen soldiers from the Battle of Blackwater. Now, whether or not that she's genuine, or that maybe she has her own machinations going, who knows? Some very nice moments in there. She knows how to handle herself in the spotlight, and it's a nice touch on her character. Kind of makes you wonder where it's going to go from here. And it kind of turns into a bit of a scuffle back and forth in between Joffrey, Marjorie, and Cersei at the dinner table come later on. Cersei is not happy about this, but, you know, Joffrey, even though he's kind of an evil little bastard, he thinks, well, hey, maybe this will kind of help win some points for me coming up in, you know, further and on down the road when she gets to be my wife. So it's maybe something he could try and work to his advantage. We'll just have to wait and see what the little blonde bastard does. Meanwhile, all this is going on. We kind of can't get out of King's Landing just yet because we still have a little matter of what Sansa is up to. Sansa has a meeting with Littlefinger. She actually pulls him aside and talks to him, while her and Shay, who is Tyrion's whore on the side, actually plays a game of name the ship and where it's going. Sansa is doing a better job in this show of fighting her naivete and actually wanting to get out of a situation, as opposed to a character who I was kind of disgusted by in the books the first couple of times that I read her. The show is a little bit more progressive. Now, you don't have the entire mindset of the character, which is one of the drawbacks of watching a television show, but at the same time, the series is a little bit more progressive in saying, hey, she doesn't like where she's at and she wants to get out. And Littlefinger is kind of got something up his sleeve like he usually does, and we're left wondering where this could go from here. Now we can jump out of King's Landing and we head off to a little bit into the north with a short interlude with Robb Stark and his mother Catelyn. Now, Cat is in some serious shit right now because she did let the Kingslayer go. And more for the fact, too, that she also entrusted the Kingslayer to someone who may have murdered one of the rival kings. Yeah, a lot of people were not entirely buying the shadow on the wall analogy for Brienne, but Robb is in a hard place. I mean, like, this woman is his mother, but at the same time, you know, he's standing on some very thin ice with damned if I do and damned if I don't. And, you know, he says that he's going to lock his mother away in a dungeon for a time being. And, you know, Jane's coming up to him and said, like, you can't do that, that's your mother. I mean, like, where's the justice in that? And Robb actually sits there in a moment of maturity and says, hey, well, where's the justice for, you know, my own people when my mother turned the murderer loose? So, it's kind of a very hard ground for this young man, but at the same time, you kind of got to admire his tenacity for order a little bit by having to understand the position that he's in, so it's certainly makes for some riveting TV. Davos. Yeah, remember the general who was fighting for Stannis at the Battle of Blackwater? Well, turns out he's alive. He's marooned on a rock, and there's a little bit of a hesitant back and forth in between him and some of his rescuers about who he's serving. Actually, turns out they serve the same guy that Davos does. Excuse me. Davos actually goes to one of his buddies and says, hey, I need you to get me to where Stannis is at right now because he's in danger from the Red Lady, Melisandre. Come to find out that Melisandre has actually been burning people alive. Anybody who speaks out against the king, they must burn because fire purifies. She's Molly Hatchet meets the Ku Klux Klan a little bit. I mean, hell, she's dressed in the colors of a fucking wizard, so why not? But she's, you know, fueling the metaphorical fire, so to speak, for Stannis and his Messiah complex. And Davos thinks that the woman is poisoning the king's ear. And he genuinely feels bad for his king. He wants to see him in the right place, but at the same time, he thinks that this woman is a problem. So when he gets there, he unsuccessfully tries to kill her. Now, there is kind of a point to where you could wonder maybe Melisandre is kind of jabbing at him a little bit. And, you know, Davos snaps, pulls a knife on her, and his ass goes straight to a dungeon. And we leave him. And which, that's okay. You know, we're still in the first episode, so ain't no telling what they're going to do with him right now. What comes to be the most interesting part of this, probably besides King's Landing, is what's going on with Daenerys. Now, I was not a big fan of the way that she was handled in the second book. Not really a fan of the way that they kind of drugged out a very short series of POVs with her in the latter half of Season 2. But this is an interesting opening for her. Starts out that she's Jorah Mormont the Bear, and about 2 or 3 dozen seasick Dothraki are riding the waves to pick up some more members for the army that Daenerys wants to build up. Daenerys gets filled in on the slave trading that is going on in... I'm kind of rusty on the geography. Either we're going to Quarth or we're just getting out of it. But she's going somewhere else and picking up some very special soldiers. Unfortunately, this kind of is a problem because Daenerys does not like slavery. She says pretty much it's bullshit. Doesn't say it like that, but she pretty much lets her feelings be known on it. The Dothraki follow only strength. And Dany has kind of this moral conviction to her that, you know, she doesn't want to use slaves, but at the same time, like Robb, she's also in a damned if she do, damned if she don't situation. She needs an army, and she needs to look strong for the people that are still loyal to her. While all this is going on, we're playing a game of, a little game of hard to catch with a little girl who's been smiling and running away from Dany, and she's following along with the bear right after her. And they get approached by a cloaked guy. Started to think that this was the mysterious cloaked figure who was talking to her in Season 2, but not the case. Actually, it turns out we start thinking that maybe this cloaked figure is, you know, an assassin come to get her. And he's even stopped just before he could make a move on Dany, and it's the child who actually turns out to be a danger. A little ironic that this episode aired on Easter because the child looks like that she's rolling something that looks like an Easter egg towards Dany, and when she reaches out to get it, the man in the black hood actually kicks it away, and we come to find out that it's a little bug that was almost set to kill her. I think they're called manticores. They're little human-faced scorpions. Very creepy looking little thing. But we do manage to take care of that problem. The man kills the bug. Child gets away, and it seems that this child is sort of the line of Jaqen H'ghor, or however you say his name. And she disappears into the day. And the man reveals himself to be Barristan Selmy, the former Kingsguard who was once loyal to her father, but is there saying that he, you know, wants to make up for not being able to defend her family, and he's pledging service. While that's going on too, a little bit after that, Dany becomes acquainted with a slave trader, and she's got the potential to buy 8,000 unsullied eunuchs. Now these guys are some hardcore badass spade motherfuckers. They have not only their manhood missing, but they have no moral qualms about killing anyone upon orders. One of the passing rites for them actually is to go and slay a young babe in a mother's arms, and that is supposedly the biggest thing that they could do to prove themselves worthy of serving in this army. They can stand for however long their bodies can take, not moving, without food, water, taking a piss, whatever. They are completely loyal, and they are completely subservient. This is much demonstrated, much to Daenerys' dismay, when the slave trader actually walks up to one of the Unsullied and proceeds to slowly cut off his nipple with a dagger. There's a little bit of a translator relaying back and forth in between the slave trader and Dany about how they are, and the slave trader is making no qualms that he thinks Dany is a dumb white-faced whore coming there who doesn't understand their ways. She may not understand him, but I think pretty much that she is getting the message that he looks down on her. He says, you know, these are tough guys. You know, this is a man, or used to be one. He doesn't need his balls anymore. He doesn't need his nipple. I'm sorry. I kind of winced at that. Even though, you know, nipples ain't really used much on a man, I'm not just about to stand there and let somebody just walk up to me and slash something off my chest. I don't care how many Klondike bars you give me. But that's pretty much the end of the episode. He says she's impressed by what she sees, but she doesn't like the slavery thing. Again, the damned if you do, damned if you don't position that she's in. And kind of wonders how exactly she's going to fix the situation. Also worried for the fact, too, that the dragons are growing pretty well. There's a very impressive trick where they're actually diving into the water One of them actually comes up with a fish, tosses the motherfucker up, manages to fry it, and swallows it whole. And we're kind of pre-shadowing that the dragons growing in size are also going to come to be a problem later on at some point. All in all, this, ironically, while I was not entirely crazy about her, she's probably, her point of view for this episode is probably the second best next to the stuff with Tyrion and King's Landing. So yeah. We're also really embracing the fantasy here, and there's some really good stuff going on. I mean, we got human-faced bugs, we got dragons, we saw our first giant, we burned a zombie. So, I mean, hey, there's some good stuff going on with that. All in all, with this episode, a little bit underwhelmed by its lack of action, but it is a good starting foundation for the season, and hopefully we can manage to amp up a little bit from here. So, that's pretty much my review for Game of Thrones Episode 1. Clocking in at 21 minutes here. Thank you guys for joining me for this, and hope to catch you guys next week with more Game of Thrones episode reviews. So, until then, I will catch you guys later. Have a good weekend.